You're watching WWAY News at 11.
We are all devastated by the news that we have just heard from Balmoral. The death of Her Majesty the Queen is a huge shock to the nation and to the world.
Now on WWA News at 11, Queen Elizabeth II has died at the age of 96. What's next for the monarchy? Plus, local reaction from a UNCW history professor, a native of England, and a man who met the Queen on Air Force One. And a parent's complaint leads to a federal investigation into New Hanover County schools. Thanks for joining us tonight for your News at 11. I'm Jeff Rivenbart. Queen Elizabeth II's historic reign has ended. The 96-year-old died today, 70 years after taking the throne. Her son, Charles, immediately became king. His official coronation could be months away after a period of mourning for the Queen. Ian Lee is outside Buckingham Palace with reaction.
A double rainbow appeared over Buckingham Palace as people gathered to mourn the loss of Queen Elizabeth II. The crowd sang the British national anthem, many remembering their 96-year-old monarch. For most, she was the only one they'd ever known.
I thought she was fantastic, a role model for everybody, and never put a foot wrong, did she?
It's one of them things you never believe is going to happen. It's quite upsetting, really. You know, you start feeling in your stomach, you don't really know what to say.
Buckingham Palace said in a statement that the Queen died peacefully at Balmoral, her summer castle in Scotland. She was surrounded by family, including her son, now King Charles III.
How is her family coming together?
73-year-old King Charles is more outspoken than his mother and has spent years championing the fight against climate change. People magazine's editor-in-chief Wendy Noggle says the monarchy may begin to look different.
Everyone in the royal family was preparing for this because they had been taking on more of the Queen's royal duties. Now they're really going to be putting their own stamp on it.
The Queen's final public appearance came on Tuesday when she appointed Britain's new Prime Minister, Liz Truss.
Queen Elizabeth II was the rock on which modern Britain was built.
The Queen is expected to remain in Scotland over the weekend before being flown to London, where the public can pay respects. Ian Lee, CBS News, London.
King Charles III is returning to London tomorrow to make his first televised address. President Joe Biden and First Lady Jill Biden visited the British Embassy in Washington, D.C. today. The two wrote messages in a condolence book following the death of Queen Elizabeth. During Elizabeth's reign as Queen, America had 14 presidents, and the Queen personally met with all of them except Lyndon Johnson. We're hearing local reaction about the Queen's life and legacy, including a Brunswick County man who worked for some of those presidents. WWA's Sydney Bushell went to Oak Island tonight to speak with him about his time with the Queen. Sydney, who did you talk to?
Jeff, I spoke to Howie Franklin. He's a bit of a legend himself after working on Air Force One. While serving, he met lots of people, including Queen Elizabeth.
We were on Air Force One. We were flying over the Golden Gate, and her ship was coming into San Francisco to pick her up.
Howie Franklin works as the Cape Fear Regional Jetport Manager in Oak Island. But before he landed in Brunswick County, he was flying all over the world as the chief flight attendant on Air Force One, working under 5 different presidents and meeting movie stars, musicians, and monarchs like Queen Elizabeth II.
I was one of the people that got to work with her when she visited the United States and Ronald Reagan, and we traveled around the country with her. And it was the most gracious lady. Whatever I imagined a great queen would be, she was.
Gracious, polite, and most of all, human. Franklin says the Queen treated everyone as equals and shared laughs with President Reagan, like when the two rode horses in California.
I was told that the Queen's horse had an extended amount of gas, a large amount of gas. And this gracious lady finally said to the president, "Oh, pardon me, Mr. President." He turned and said, "Oh, that's okay, I thought it was the horse."
The stories he could tell are endless and all positive. Just as the Queen was gracious, Franklin was grateful to work with her.
It was everybody. The whole crew felt that way. The Secret Service, our passengers, our staff members. She was just whatever we thought a queen should be. She was that and more as far as her mannerisms and her attitude.
When the Queen returned home to England after her trip across the United States, she told her staff how much she enjoyed the mints on Air Force One. So her staff reached out to Howie and asked him to send some across the pond. Jeff?
Great. Such a great story. Thank you, Sydney. We're also hearing tonight from a UNCW history professor and a native of England who now coaches at UNCW about the Queen's legacy.
Certainly we'll hear it said that she's the Queen who may, in a lot of ways, have saved the monarchy. The monarchy itself changed, she changed with it, but at the same time it stayed a kind of a rallying point for the whole culture. My students saw in Wales come together and be kind of united around this wonderful woman. Again, she managed to change with the times, she managed to preserve dignity, to be a center of gravity kind of within the society for people to sort of be proud of being British. She pulled that off wonderfully, you know. And I think it's left a legacy both for the monarchy and, you know, some tough shoes to fill too for I guess we've now got Charles III.
She's been part of my life, you know, for the 53 years I've been on this planet. I remember, you know, the Silver Jubilee. She'd been she'd been reign for 25 years, and we had, you know, street parties, and I remember that's my childhood. What an incredible kind of, you know, obviously monarch and kind of figurehead for a country. And she was doing things to the very end. So certainly, you know, time was going to come, but just even though it's over, it's very upsetting.
In a statement, King Charles called his mother's death a moment of greatest sadness for me and all members of my family, adding, "I know her loss will be deeply felt throughout the country, the realms, and the Commonwealth, and by countless people around the world." Still ahead on WWA News at 11, New Hanover County Schools is under investigation after a parent filed a complaint accusing the school district of discrimination. And a Leland baby is making medical history with what doctors believe is the first partial heart transplant.
Use lots of extra caution on area beaches for Friday as we had a moderate to high risk for rip currents due to swell coming in from Hurricane Earl, which is not far away from Bermuda right now. With otherwise partly cloudy skies, highs in the low 80s. More on that and the weekend weather coming up.